Although it is never fun to see your favorite team fall behind, one of the most exciting aspects of watching professional Dota 2 is to see your favorite team scratch and claw its way back to victory, much to the surprise of their fans as well as their opponents. Especially comebacks in TIs, where the stakes are always high and each loss is devastating.
Comes out under fear. Refresher activated by Old 11, not going to get the chance for a second Primal Roar. He's going to get blown up inside the chronosphere. He's down and out. Evil Genius is still 5 up, but here comes Ed on these slash, bouncing around with the Shadow Demon, hoping to be able to go on his eye, but an arrow! Oh my god!
These are the 6 most memorable and iconic comebacks ever made in the International's long and storied 8-year history. But before we embark on that journey, consider smashing that subscribe button for more awesome Dota 2 content. TI4 witnessed Team DK come into the event with one of the most stacked rosters in Dota 2 history. Burning, Mushi, Ice Ice Ice, MMY and LANM represented the finest that the Asian Dota 2 scene had to offer. On the other side, we had LGD Gaming, a team filled with newcomers, and no one expected them to take a game off of DK. Everything was going according to the script, with DK possessing a 25k gold lead. But then, the unthinkable happened.
Why they want to finish off. They might get the Rubik kill, but he gets 4 steps away and keeps on running from Yao while the real fight breaks out with Bernie being focused on the high ground. LGD find him. Now Yao looking for Mushi. He's got Satanic here though. He also has buyback. He won't use the Satanics and he will end up going down. He actually popped
LGD Gaming began to fight back, forcing buybacks and opening up an opportunity for victory.
Yes, they will. It's not the end just yet, and they go in with Burning. He gets focused, he gets abyssaled. He goes down, he can't do anything, he can buy back down, but they lose Ice 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 as well. It's 2 down, and they've wrangled in Mushi. He was forced to buy back, and he might fall for this. He BKBs, he tries to run, he can't fall, but it looks like he might Satanic. Is it enough? Is it enough? He still stands for now, only for now. Down he goes! LGD have done it!
I cannot believe they just managed to pull that off.
They shocked DK and probably the world.
Digital Chaos, an underdog team that not many favored, going up against their arch rivals EG, who butchered their team for players earlier that season. They would meet in the lower bracket finals to fight for a spot in the grand finals. It couldn't have been scripted any better. The series was tied 1-1. EG was on the verge of slipping into the grand finals. With momentum on their side, they began to siege the mid tower to claim victory.
What a play! And the Ravage comes out. Weehaw doesn't rage at this point, but another grave, and he gets kited. The Aegis is down.
There is Rat though. Bottom lane, it's Moo.
But home crowd favorite Moo had other ideas. As his team held EG at bay, Moo began to rat out the towers, chipping away at them bit by bit, and eventually claimed mega creeps.
And we straight for the jugular, onto the throne, but they stop Rezo. They hold for now. Fear's coming out with the vengeance. Thrown low, not dead. It's gonna do it. It's gonna it. They take game 3. Oh my.
EG went for an all-in play with a Divine Rapier, but TC managed to hold strong and exerted their revenge to secure a spot in the grand finals. In the history of the International, only one team has come back from mega creeps twice: TNC Predator. While their first mega creep comeback against Infamous was quite impressive on its own, it is their second comeback which cements their place on this list. Going up against Chinese team Serenity in the group stages of TI8, TNC Predator were on the verge of dropping the BO2 series and were at the risk of finishing in last place and getting eliminated. They got dominated from the very beginning and ended up losing tower after tower and were mega creeped.
Nice swap back in, can actually control it. Mantis is gonna get used. Zinq half HP, and Sam Aegis right looking for so much damage. They will kill through his Aegis. And can they kill him through a second time? Surrounded by 4, arrow will hit, and he's dead! 2 minutes without buyback. Alchemist out of this game. I don't know, man. Raven just charging at the tier 4 now at this point. ZY3, he's suiciding. Oh, toss away, okay. All right, he bought himself about 5 seconds. He will buy back. Gyro's back in 5. Tier 4 is going down right now. All right, Rex, it's dropping fast swap.
With their backs against the wall, TNC did the impossible once again. They held against Mega Creeps and eventually ended up bringing down Serenity's scores to secure the win. The most recent entry on this list, but perhaps the most memorable. When TI8 kicked off, no one fancied OG, yet they built up serious momentum and managed to take down the likes of VGJ Storm and Evil Geniuses to secure a spot in the upper bracket. But it looked like the Cinderella run had finally come to an end against PSG LGD in the upper bracket finals. OG were almost team wiped. Anna and Thompson were left to try and hold against the might of LGD Gaming. In all likelihood, this would have been it. But OG harnessed the magic of the International to do the impossible.
They lose the Enchantress. FY pushing around Anna. He's so low. Can they get the dive back on him? You bet your Nelly they can. Arme still very, very low. The blast will kill him off. But buyback. LGD want this now. LGD, or can they? Backing up? No, they're not. Terrorblade. BT's forward. The ball is up. Thompson needs to defend. X-Nova very visible. You've got a very, very low life Miranda. But OG, they can't find the target. X-Nova, he's got the grip. He's got the control. He's got the kill. Thompson is down. But ES is up. Where the Echo slam.
Oh, there it is.
Forward. There's your slam. There's the dunk. There's the play. Jirax, the savior of OG. It sounds like a brand of victory. They'll come in through the mid, taking the tier 3 tower.
They might be able to get the whole thing.
Tier 4s now. LGD. My, how the tables are turned. OG are going for the tier 4s. Charles is there, defense. Bay will be up in just a second. The fortification, it buys time. The Hex is there from Chalice, but now here comes Anna. He's on the front lines. Jirax leaping forward. All he has to do is create space for OG to do it, to get to the grand final of TI8. Tip him up, tip him over. The lead comes forward. They've got the control. X-Nova, he'll go down. This is the game. LGD have nothing left. OG have done it.
They managed to push back LGD Gaming and went on to secure a spot in the grand finals. The rest is history. The epic conclusion to a long rivalry. The highest stakes so far. Alliance had had a flawless run throughout, but they were on the brink of being beaten by Na'Vi. Na'Vi were destined to be the first two-time TI champions. But one man changed the course of history.
If Dendy gets this, if he gets this, they might not be able to stop him.
Roche, TP back in here, and he bashes. There's a stun on Dendy. Dendy's dropping low. Roshan
S4 picks up the Aegis. Alliance.
Na'Vi were rattled, but not out. They still had the edge, with the golden EXP in their favor. They managed to bring down Alliance's racks, and were trying to TP back to defend against the split push. But S4 had other plans.
TP quick right now. S4's gonna try to cancel as many as possible. He'll cancel 3! My god!
Cancelling Na'Vi's TPs and allowing the Alliance to secure 2 sets of racks in return, the comeback was secured.
TP, he's out. He canceled the beat. Puppy, he's not going to be back in the base.
He's got BKB, but no boots of travel. Coil on 2.
Cancels Dendy's TP as well. They are in huge trouble.
Buttocks caught. Now if they go for the throne, it could be game. Buttocks down. Alliance are doing it. They need a little more of those to fall. Throne in jeopardy. There's a glyph. It could be their last stand.
Dendy's back. He's going to try to focus everybody, but there's so much stuff hitting on the throne. There's no more glyph available. Down to about half HP, a quarter HP. Alliance surrounding from all sides.
BKB, they want this round. They're going to do it. The Kings of the North.
Alliance wins.
S4 landed the killing blow for Alliance and won them the game as well as the championship. In the 6-year history of the International, no team had ever made a Mega Creep comeback. That is, until EG's game against T-Home in TI6, where the NA team flipped the script and rewrote history. E-Home dominated the early game and never really let go, amassing a 20k goal net worth lead by the 45-minute mark and eventually pressured EG to secure Mega Creeps. Most teams would have folded and called GG, but EG was not a normal team. Their tenacity persevered.
He's back inside the Radiant space. He's already taken down one of the tier 4s. and he's trying to get PPD, but Evil Genius is cool, calm, and collected. They're holding the defense here again. If they kill chicken here, able to get up the ice box.
They managed to keep their heads cool and put up an unbelievable defense and clawed their way back into the game with multiple Dagons and finally claimed their victory with a Divine Rapier from Universe.
That was a hold of a lifetime. EG, this team just does not quit. The tier 4 is being beaten on. It begins the jump forward. Somehow, already going down to Fenrir. No chaotic offering an ice blast. The Dagon first. He'll take him out. Eho. Fenrir finds back to the tier 4. The throne's going down. The throne down to half HP. Eho gets the back. Have done it. Game 1. It's over.
Do you agree with our list? What's your favorite comeback in TI history? For more amazing Dota 2 content published every week, subscribe to our channel, AFK Gaming.
I'm coming home.